Join us for the very first IFL Live at London's Indigo at the O2, Sunday, August the 13th, with me, Kugan Cassius, and some very special guests. Eddie Hearn, Darren Barker, Johnny Fisher and more. Tickets now on sale. So in the words of Eddie Hearn,
you get up, you dress up, and you fucking shut up.
This is Umar Ahmed for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. Different interview settings here with CEO George Warren in the back of a car. Your dad's car, luckily, not a smaller one.
Yeah, I had to borrow that. I would have got you in the back of mine. When you said you wanted to do this, you needed a lift up. We've nicked his keys.
We have. We thank your dad for this. Right, so just explain the situation. We're up on our way to Telford, obviously for the TNT show tonight. Fantastic fight between Davies and Ngannou. Just logistically, to put this out Saturday night wouldn't make sense. It's going to go out Sunday evening. So, yeah, we won't discuss what's going to happen in the fight.
It's good. So I don't have to do a prediction on a great fight that I'm hoping everyone's enjoyed, because they're both with us, and I just want to say best of luck to them both, and hopefully it's as good as we expect.
Absolutely. Right, George, the main point I wanted to get you on today really is just to go through the timeline of Tyson Fury's journey and where we're at today. So I want to go right back to April 2022 at Wembley Stadium, where he knocked out Dillian White. Just talk me through the process of him then fighting Derek Chisora, not landing any fights with Oleksandr Usyk or Anthony Joshua, and now fighting Francis Ngannou. So it's going to be lengthy, but try and condense it as best as you can, please.
I'll do my best. I think the first thing is Umar. Tyson, you know, at the time, I think he thought that was it for him. He made it quite public that he was going to retire. I don't know if we necessarily believed that was his final decision. I think he believed it, but I always had an inkling, a feeling that he would, you know, get the bug back and want to defend his title, and obviously that ended up being what he wanted to do. In terms of where, you know, the AJ and the Usyk fights, etc., sit within that, I mean, it's, look, first and foremost, boxing is not like most other sports. There isn't a league, there isn't a league structure in place. You know, we don't sit here with a fixture list that comes out. There's different networks, there's different promoters, there's different ambitions, there's different timelines. People get injured, people retire, people come back from retirement, people lose. So everything kind of happens at a different time and at a different place and stage for everyone involved. And what we've always got to do, our job most importantly as promoters, is to deliver the best opportunities for the guys that we represent, to deliver for our broadcast partners, and to deliver for fight fans. Because if we don't deliver for fight fans, we don't deliver events and fights that they want to see, they don't buy tickets, they don't tune in, it's not good for the sport. We're not going to be renewing contracts and continuing relationships and being able to build a viable business. So that's ultimately what we're about. And we've been fortunate enough to be working with, you know, probably considered now the biggest name in the sport in Tyson Fury, particularly off the back of all those performances out in America and building his name out there, and that historic night at Wembley Stadium where he set so many different records in terms of commercial revenue. Performance was fantastic. The whole night was thrilling. And when he decided and when he told us that he wanted to come back, and he wanted to come back from retirement and to fight again, we worked very quickly with him and set a plan in place to try and do a fight in Old Trafford in November. When we were discussing potential opponents and stuff, Tyson came to us and said, what about AJ, what about Joshua? Now this was obviously off the back of understanding that Usyk and AJ had fought in August, and that Usyk had won that fight against AJ, but that Usyk was not going to be available to fight in December, because the original intention upon Tyson coming back from retirement was to go straight into fighting Oleksandr Usyk in December. We agreed terms in principle with Skills Challenge. We were prepared to move forward with the December date, but unfortunately Alex Krasik confirmed to Skills Challenge and ourselves that December would not be viable. And so Tyson made the decision that he wanted to still fight. We looked at Old Trafford, we looked at November, we made an offer to Joshua to fight in November. Joshua made it clear that he wouldn't be ready for that. We then spoke about December. We went to December, we got very, very close to doing it, but unfortunately we didn't get the deal done. To go over old ground on whose fault was this and who said that publicly and all of that, at the end of the day, it's irrelevant. The fight didn't happen. Tyson still needed to fight, so we moved forward to try and fight in December in Tottenham. The decision was made as a team that the best viable opponent from a commercial standpoint and from a recognition standpoint, maybe not in terms of perhaps challenge in the ring. I think I'd admit now that Derek was always going to be perceived as a fairly winnable and easy fight for Tyson. But as I said before, boxing's different to a lot of other sports. It's not just about who's in there against you, it's also about the commercial viability of what you're putting together, and you've got to try and make numbers work. And Derek ticked a lot of boxes, and I think one of those fairly infrequent interviews that I've done with you before, I've touched on that, and I've said the reasons why we went with Derek. But it was off the back of both Usyk not being available in December and Joshua his team deciding to step away and not to continue negotiating for that fight in December. So that's really why we ended up there. But before we committed to the Derek fight, after the fallout with Joshua, and when it became apparent that they were not going to proceed and continue to negotiate for a December fight, we were approached by Skills Challenge with an offer, a formal offer in writing. The only ever formal offer that we've had. We'd provisionally agreed terms for a December fight, but it was never a formal offer. We never received a contract. So the one time that we did receive a formal offer for Tyson to fight Oleksandr Usyk was prior to him fighting Derek, in which we accepted it. And the offer was very clear. It was, if you don't fight Derek Chisora, we will pay this amount of money for you to fight Oleksandr Usyk in February out in Saudi Arabia. That offer was accepted. So Tyson accepted it. It's just a stone cold fact. The only ever third party offer that we have had for Tyson Fury to fight Oleksandr Usyk, he has accepted.
Why is there a perception out there? I think Team Usyk have put this out there that they signed for this February fight, but you guys didn't.
They may well have signed for it. I don't know. I mean, listen, I have great dialogue with Alex Krasik. We work together on another fighter. He's got a job to do for his fighter. He's done a job publicly to spin the narrative to make his fighter look a particular way, and he's done a very good job on it. But he will know himself that the February offer for Fury Usyk from Skills Challenge was not possible, not because I don't believe the fighters wanted to fight each other, but the date was not then made available. So we accepted an offer, and once you accept an offer, you get a formal offer in for a fight. If you accept it, tends to then happen, usually, is you then proceed to contracts. And we didn't proceed to contracts because we were quickly informed that it was no longer available to do it in February. We then spoke with Skills Challenge, constant communication with Alex Krasik about trying to find another date to do the fight out in Saudi still, with Skills Challenge. Talked about March. It was then made quite clear that it was going to be difficult to get it away before Ramadan. And Ramadan, I think, was late March to late April it finished. And so we then set a target date with Skills Challenge and with K2, focusing on April 29th. And we had a contingency, ourselves and K2 Promotions, of April 29th at Wembley Stadium, on the provision and on the proviso that if for any reason we weren't able to get the fight on out in Saudi, i.e. if the date was to change again, if they needed more time and the fighters wouldn't accept it, then we would proceed to try and make the fight on April 29th at Wembley Stadium, which we did, which we tried extremely hard. And again, there's a lot of things that have been said publicly about all the terms have been changed and this, that and the other. People can have their opinion on all of that. But it was us, as in the Fury side, being the proactive side, trying to make that fight happen. And Alex has publicly said they walked away from that. Now, I believe, and this is my honest opinion, I believe they walked away from a fight there that was one or two very small matters away from being agreed for April 29th. I don't believe there was anything left really material to work out or figure out, and I think we could have done it. But they made their decision. I don't criticise them from it. That was their prerogative. You can't make people fight when it's not a mandated fight. It's an undisputed, so it's a unification fight. They don't have to do it.
Were you annoyed that Tyson got the blame for that, though?
I'm annoyed about the perception more than anything that Tyson Fury, a guy that has gone to Germany, beaten at the time the lineal champion, gone over to LA and Vegas twice and fought arguably the biggest puncher of his generation in Deontay Wilder, has also been the one. And whether or not people like how sometimes perhaps he goes about it, and you know, I see a lot of criticism about things being said on social media, that's boxing. There's a lot of people that say a lot of stuff on social media. I mean, I like to try and stay away from it. I prefer to do business where it should be done, which is in, you know, in meeting rooms and try and keep things private and confidential. But at the end of the day, he, out of all of those heavyweights, has been the one offering fights. He has been the one approaching these guys to make these fights. It's not been the other way around.
And claims of him outpricing himself in terms of negotiations.
But again, the only time we've ever received a formal offer from a third party for the fight, it was accepted. So again, I don't see how anyone is pricing themselves out of something. If we'd received that formal offer, which was a great offer by the way, and very well received from a good group of people, we've got no, you know, there is no complaints or no concerns with them as an entity. They've got great ambitious plans for the sport, and good luck to them. But what is not right is for people to sit there and say that Tyson does not want to fight Oleksandr Usyk or Anthony Joshua.
Okay, so shortly after that point where the April negotiations collapsed, Usyk obviously signed with Skills Challenge.
Yeah.
And then again, Alex Krassik's been insistent. I asked him what was the thinking behind signing with Skills Challenge. He essentially said to me, this is to get Tyson Fury in the ring. We knew about this proposed idea for December with Skills Challenge, which now looks like it's being pushed back to January, February. But, you know, we're making our intent clear to Team Fury that we're signing with Skills Challenge and no excuses, let's get the fight on. So
it's great, but in order for a fight to happen, you need three things. You need both fighters to accept the terms, but you also need a date. And we have not been ever offered or been positioned with an offer for a fight against Oleksandr Usyk for Tyson to consider for December. We were told quite consistently that an offer was going to be incoming, and you've just referred to a couple of the things that Alex has said publicly. You know, that we were going to get a take it or leave it offer. It was going to be put to us within a couple of weeks of that interview, and that's been, you know, the narrative for quite some time has been this. A lot of talk about big heavyweight fights happening out in Saudi Arabia in December that Skills Challenge are going to be putting together. I don't know where they are on that. It's not my business, it's their business. But all I can sit here and say is which is our business, with the fighter that we are involved with and represent and help guide, there has been no offer for that. So again, I find it almost amusing that people like to say Tyson doesn't want to fight Oleksandr Usyk in December when there's been no offer to consider. It doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, Krassik said to me on air, this was June 5th, I did an interview with him, said, you guys, yeah, what you just said, you'll be getting a take it or leave it offer from Skills Challenge.
It never happened. And look, I don't know why. That's not for me to answer, because I don't work for them. Our job's to deliver opportunities for the fighters that we represent. If an offer had been received, it would have been considered. I'm not saying it would have been accepted, because I don't know what the terms were, don't know what the date was. You know, if it was fight on Christmas Day for 10 quid, Tyson would have told them to piss off. But if it was an offer that was commercially acceptable to him and it worked within a time frame that was good for him and he was happy with, then you sit down, you negotiate, or if it was take it or leave it, then it would have been considered, and if it was acceptable to him, it would have been accepted. But you can't accept something that's not offered, and you can't duck someone if you're not offered to fight him. That's for me what I don't understand with that narrative. It doesn't. To be honest, I mean, just think about it. It's illogical.
Okay. So we will come on to Fury and Ngannou and Usyk Dubois in due course. Let's just say the favourites in both fights come through with Tyson and Oleksandr. Are you still hopeful of doing something? Looks like we'll have to be in Saudi Arabia sometime February, March next year. Do you think that fight can happen for the undisputed?
Never would I say that fight's not there to be made. That fight's always going to be called for. It's one of the biggest fights in boxing history. You know, the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. It's a fight that clearly all not British fight fans, all world boxing fans want to see happen. It'd be an honour to be involved in putting that together. That's why we work so incredibly hard to try and get a deal done for April. But again, the context of taking, you know, Tyson fighting Francis in October in Saudi, and Usyk's got to fight Dubois because it's a mandatory. Both fighters need to come through those fights for that fight to still happen, but they're not synced in. It wasn't as if we went down this path of fighting Francis Ngannou over fighting Oleksandr Usyk. There was no choice to make because there was only one offer on the table, which was accepted, which was to fight Francis Ngannou in October in Saudi. If there was an offer on the table at the same time to fight Oleksandr Usyk in Saudi in December, I don't know what the answer would have been to that because it wasn't tabled. But you can't turn something down unless it's been offered.
Yeah, okay. Right, before we come on to Fury and Ngannou, you've addressed everything there, I think, with Fury Usyk. In terms of Anthony Joshua, you guys obviously made an offer for September as well for Tyson to defend his WBC world title against Anthony Joshua. What was the reasoning given from their team to yourself, either from Freddie Cunningham or Eddie Hearn, about why that didn't happen?
Not much really. And again, you know, I don't go into too many kind of private conversations that I had a very good, productive conversation with Freddie about that fight. He said that they're interested in it, but right now their focus is on fighting Deontay Wilder in December, which I understand now is not the case. They made a, you know, look, for me it seems as if they made a collective decision that December was going to happen, or at least that it was worth the financial compensation perhaps being discussed around a December date for AJ was worth him not looking at a big fight with Tyson in September. That's what it comes across as to me. They were prepared to continue conversations to see if an offer would be made and see if a commitment can be made for a December fight. Now, it looks as if December's off the table. I think that's been made public that now, like you say, January, February's happening. The difference between them as a team and us as a team is we just weren't simply willing to take that risk. So we had to go and make other plans and other arrangements. And that's it.
Well, let's talk about those arrangements. So, why is this a game changer on October 28th, George?
I think it's going to be for a number of reasons, and I'm not going to sit here and, you know, gloat about what I believe is going to be a monumental event. It's going to be historic. The people that we're working with are very, very capable, good people that have delivered on everything that they've said to us. We've worked very quickly with them, and I believe this is going to be the start of something incredible. I think this fight week is going to be an incredible event in itself. I've seen the plans for Riyadh season as a whole. Our involvement in that is going to be substantial, and you can't ignore the fact that whether people like it or not, Saudi Arabia is making a significant and huge play for global sport. They're attracting some of the elite in now football. I've seen that Jordan Henderson's just recently signed. I think it was today. Riyad Mahrez was announced that he'd signed, or I don't know if that was today or yesterday. I read it today. So if they're in a position now where they're able to take some of the top elite talent from the Premier League and deliver it in Saudi, boxing's got to accept that that's also going to happen with the sport. Now for me, what I want to focus in on is a relationship with the people out there that work out there, and ensuring that calendar-wise we don't take our eye off being able to deliver here in the UK and also in the US. I mean, there's a great event tonight as we drive up, which we already result tomorrow in Crawford Spencer. There's great events happening all around the world, but they are making a significant play for global sport, for the elite of the sport. And if they want the elite of boxing, of course they're going to contact Tyson Fury, and that's what they've done.
Are you hopeful as well with this group in Saudi Arabia that Tyson will have future fights there, George?
I think Tyson will. Listen, Tyson's his own boss. He's going to make his decisions on how long he wants to continue and where he wants to fight and the challenges that he wants to make. All I can sit here and say is they are a very, very good people to work with. Incredibly professional. As I said, everything that's been, you know, we've discussed with them has been delivered. Their plans and their ambitions around this event are mind-blowing. and I am hugely excited. And I think when it comes to it, everyone will see what we're talking about. It's going to be very special. I have to actually sit here hand on heart and say that this opportunity was not steered originally by Queensberry or Top Rank. It was actually by Spencer Brown from Gold Star, Tyson's manager, who did a fantastic job. He worked incredibly hard to do this, and I'd like to think that I helped him get it over the line, but he certainly spearheaded this, and he's built a fantastic relationship with this group. And I think that, look, if they want to continue growing the sport out in Saudi, and in particular in boxing, I'm sure that there's going to be interest in those other huge events, and Fury Usyk's got to be one of them, right? As is so many other combinations, or Fury Dubois, which it will be, we hope.
Right, we know why you guys are doing this. There was no other offers for Tyson on the table. No secret it's going to generate millions and millions for Tyson. So from a global event, it makes sense commercially, etc. From a competitive point of view, where you've got the premier heavyweight in the world against someone who's never entered a boxing ring, can you even sell this as a competitive event, George?
I think by the time that this event comes around, sports fans will be engaged with it. I think they're going to end up being excited about it. We saw that with Mayweather-McGregor. Mayweather-McGregor set box office records in the US, or maybe perhaps not as high as Mayweather-Pacquiao, but very close. I think it was the largest pay-per-view event, certainly from a US time zone for a UK audience in history on Sky Boxing. I don't know the number accurately, but that's the rumour. So these crossover events, when they're done right, they engage sports fans. And our job, like you just said, our job is to deliver opportunities for our boxers, to deliver them financially lucrative and rewarding opportunities, to hopefully be involved in global events, as you say, that are going to generate millions and millions of interest from audiences around the world, and huge revenue. And that's what this is. That's what this event is. We're going to build a great undercard that I can't go into detail with. It's going to be an amazing night, I promise you.
So when you see people within the industry and fans say, well, if you couldn't get the fights with Usyk and Joshua, we believe you, it wasn't you guys who ruined that, etc. Why don't you fight someone in the WBC rankings? What would your response be to that?
Well, because we didn't receive an offer of the size and nature and calibre of this offer to fight someone from the WBC ratings. We spoke and reached out to a few opponents that we thought would be viable for a Wembley Stadium type event.
Ruiz, one of them.
Yeah, Andy Ruiz was one of them, and we had a few conversations with his lawyer and his team. They quoted me a figure. I've seen it been mooted about different numbers. I'm not going to give the exact figure because it's not, again, my style, but the number was ridiculous. It was too high. It was way too high. Would never have made any commercial sense. Wouldn't have left any money on the table to do anything else to any extent, and to give Tyson the value that he creates as part of an event, particularly for a voluntary defence. And there's been some other conversations with other people, but this opportunity came up. This opportunity, say financially, in terms of his brand, in terms of his awareness, and getting, this is a fighter in Tyson that is a commercial attraction outside of what you call hardcore boxing fans. We have to service those fans as well, because they love and adore him. These people want to watch him do stuff. They've watched him in the WWE. They're now going to watch him in a crossover fight with one of the biggest punchers in MMA history. Now, I know hardcore boxing fans are saying, it's Francis Ngannou. I get that. But wait till you see the event, see the noise it creates, and see where it leads to.
Seen a lot of retired fighters, as I said, people in the industry. We saw that clash with your dad and Adam Catcher on Talk Sport.
He's not a retired fighter, is he?
Well, he's not. But Carl Froch been very vocal. I've seen a fair few fighters have their say, and when they're hammering Tyson over the last couple of weeks since this Ngannou announcement, when you see that, what do you think?
Well, I mean, to be honest, Carl Froch was quite openly and publicly. I think he did it on it was now TNT Sport, by the way, as of last night when this goes out, but on BT Sport's coverage of Jake and Tommy, he made it clear that he wanted to fight Jake Paul. So I get it. again, I get it. The hardcore boxing fraternity, this is not the fight they wanted to see. They wanted to see Fury Usyk. I've gone through the reasons why that's not happening right now. Trust me, no one was as frustrated as me at the end of that conversation and negotiation period for April. We were disappointed not to receive a formal offer or an offer for December, but it didn't happen. So we've moved on. And in the meantime, Usyk's unavailable because he has a mandatory defence against Daniel Dubois, and we sit here and hope that Daniel Dubois wins that fight. It's a very tough fight for him, but if he does, it's a great position for Queensberry. It's a great position for us because, you know, all roads should be very, very clean and concise to being able to make an undisputed fight.
He talks about what's going to happen on fight week out there in Saudi Arabia, Riyadh. The promotion around this, etc. You believe in the US market, and especially for you guys here with TNT Sports box office, that this could do an incredible number, George?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go into detail on the broadcast situation because there's still a lot to finalise, but look, this is going to do big numbers, I know.
Right, talking about pay-per-view, Usyk Dubois, of course, is on TNT Sports box office. First question on that really is, this was actually a purse bid. They won it, K2 Promotions, but the way you guys are working on this, obviously we had a London press conference, seems like if you hadn't known it was a purse bid, it seems like a deal was struck, and it's, you know, you guys are working really well on it, sort of co-promoting it. So why wasn't a deal actually struck between you guys for this fight?
To be honest, I don't know, because from our side of things, it's similar terms to what we were comfortable with to avoid bids, to agree to go to Poland. We provisionally accepted that, but we couldn't finalise that. It was, I think, K2 were reluctant to commit to our broadcast partner being the pay-per-view partner, but they wanted to go to purse bids and then maybe talk to the market. But, you know, look, I'm very happy that we've been able to secure the rights for TNT. I'm really happy, you know, Alex, you know, working with him very well on this event. We move on.
George, a lot of the comments around the Fury negotiations, Fury Usyk negotiations, April time and that collapse. Your dad was, you know, going on various stations, said it to me, talking about Usyk's value. Now he's the A side in this fight against Daniel Dubois on a box office fight, TNT Sports box office. So when your dad was talking about Usyk's value and what he actually brings to the table, surely this doesn't do a great number on box office, George. Do you see why I say that?
I think in comparison to Tyson and Usyk, it's not going to do anywhere near the same number. It's incredibly different. And no, do I think it could rival? I don't think it does anything like Tyson and Dillian White. I don't. I think it's a great fight. I think it's going to, all of a sudden, from nowhere, you get to fight week heavyweights. I expect British fight fans to get behind a UK fighter. But yeah, listen, there is different levels. There's different levels in a lot of different pay-per-views. I mean, you know, again, we're doing this on Saturday night on our way up. Tonight, as I sit here, as results will be in tomorrow when this goes out, Terence Crawford, Errol Spence, you know, you could sit here and argue and say it's that is as good as it gets as a fight. The commercial value of that as a pay-per-view event in the UK is obviously a lot smaller than, you know, Usyk Dubois. So different fighters, different events, different value.
Your dad's very insistent, even off camera, he tells me. He's convinced that Daniel Dubois will knock out Oleksandr Usyk. How would you see the fight going?
Listen, Daniel is a lot better fighter than people give him credit for. He's a boxer. He's got a fantastic jab. He's a big guy. He's a naturally bigger guy. Oleksandr Usyk's done incredible things as a boxer, particularly at cruiserweight. You know, 2 great performances against Anthony Joshua. I don't think that was necessarily Anthony Joshua at his best though on either night, and I think, look, it's going to be a tough night. Daniel is rightfully the underdog. He should be, with, you know, kind of the distinction in terms of where they've gone into, and particularly after a couple of the recent performances of both fighters. It's only right that that's the case. But having said that, Daniel is one of the best finishers in boxing. And I think Moses Itauma he did an article today talking about it, interview saying hardest spar that he had out of him, Joyce and Anthony Joshua was with Daniel Dubois. Go and ask any heavyweight who you want to get hit by. I think number one, the least one that they would want to get hit by is Deontay Wilder, and I think probably second to that would be Daniel Dubois. So for us, I don't see it as just being he's got a puncher's chance. and if he can assert himself and be aggressive and positive in the fight, get Oleksandr Usyk on the back foot, I think he could do it. But yeah, it's a tough fight.
That's August 26th in Wrocław. I don't know how you pronounce it in Poland.
Going with that, mate.
You looking forward to it?
In Poland, that's all I'm going to say for now.
Yeah,
I am looking forward to it. It should be, it's a different place, a different night.
Right, let's talk about September 23rd. Big night, Wembley Arena. What does Joe have to do different this time against Zhang, George?
I think firstly, don't get an injured eye. That'd help. No, listen, he took too many shots. He was taking too many shots. He was too easy to hit. I think he struggled with the southpaw, so they need to work on that, and I'm sure they are. He's got a great training team. He's out in Vegas. As you spoke with his manager Adam yesterday, I know Adam's going out to see him, and then we're going to do some press stuff with the both of them in New York in a couple of weeks, which is great. But no, I think he's got to do that, and I think he's got to get through those first few rounds and not let this guy impose himself on him, and actually impose himself, do what Joe's best at doing, which is that, he is that guy that just breaks people's hearts because they seem to kind of think that they're wearing him down and he's just still standing there. So he's got to be positive.
Well, if he wins, obviously he's in a great position. He's WBO interim champion again in that mandatory spot. Now, it's not on your minds for him to lose, but you're as promoters, you've got to think about the future. If the result's the same, I know it's the manner of the loss as well, but where do you think that leaves Joe? Because people are saying, is that it for Joe at his age?
No, I don't believe so. I think there's still a lot of big fights for him out there. You got the winner or the loser of the White Joshua fight against Joyce. Is still, both of those fights for me are interesting fights. If Daniel doesn't pull it off against Oleksandr, the rematch with him and Joe is still a big fight. There's plenty of big fights there. The combination of any of those type of 4 fights very much interests me.
Okay. A few more topics and sort of fights to go through, but before that, I just want to talk about your relationship with other promoters in this country, namely, because we have seen some more cohesion in recent times than we have before, it's fair to say. But when I speak to your likes of Frank Smith and Eddie Hearn, Ben Shalom, your name does get brought up a lot, and you don't do much media at all, as you've said in this. And they mention their working relationship with yourself, and it's a healthy one. What would you say about your relationship with the main promoters in this other country? Because from my point of view, I don't see many fights still getting made across promotionally. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, look, the most important thing is it's all good to talk about good relationships, but we got to work a bit more proactively, I believe, to get fights made. That's what's key when they come up and when they're available to do. That's sort of at a lower level, British level, we've worked with Boxer to allow Mark Heffron to go and fight on the Eubank Smith card. Worked with Ben and Boxer to get Joe Parker over for Joyce.
Wasn't that going to be ordered anyways?
It was going to be ordered, but we managed to do the fight before it went to, before it was officially ordered by the WBO. But look, it's, for me, if everyone feels that they can talk and communicate, that's great, but the proof's in the pudding, right? We've got to deliver more. We should all be under a bit of pressure from boxing fans to try and deliver good fights, and if that means certainly looking at sending a fighter over to Sky or to the Zone and vice versa, as long as there's a bit of give and take and there's some common sense, it's not going to work every time. You're not going to be able to do it every time. There's going to be situations where you can't, but most of the time, sensible heads prevail. Fights should get made.
The other one, of course, was Zach Parker and John Ryder, but again, that was going to be ordered anyways, wasn't it?
Yes, so that was ordered. It was. I don't know if they'd officially call for purse bids, but for negotiations, we were able to strike a deal, and that's great. If you can strike a deal and avoid bids, it means everyone's happy with the deal, and that's always a good thing. If you can't, you go to purse bids, and we're going to have that situation fairly imminently with the British heavyweight title. We'll see.
Well, let's talk about that. Hopefully, a deal can get struck for David Adeleye and Fabio Wardley. Are there ongoing conversations with either Frank Smith or Eddie Hearn about doing that, George?
No, not at the moment, but it's still a bit of way off, but we're definitely interested in the fight. Spoke with David and his management team, had a conversation with them last week, and we've all confirmed that that's definitely what we want to do.
Do you think David will box once more before fighting Fabio?
Don't know yet. Haven't got into that level of detail. Very much depend on how the negotiations go with the Wardley team, because if it's a case that it's straight to purse bids, we're not negotiating, then there's less flexibility on both fighters if they want to. I mean, Fabio's not fought this summer either. He's been out for a while, and I think he probably, it's one of those situations that if he wants to have a warm-up fight, I'm sure David would want to do the same. If one of them's more like, no, do you know what, let's just get on with it straight away, that's going to probably impinge on the other guy being able to do that, because the promoter representing that guy is going to be a bit more forceful in strongly negotiating it quickly, going to purse bids and getting the fight on quickly.
But from your end, whether the deal was right for David to come on the zone, or whether those guys, in terms of Team Wardley, are happy to come on TNT, you believe we see that fight before the end of the year?
Yeah, I think it happens. Yeah, I mean, it's ordered, so for me, it's got to happen unless one of them.
To be fair,
unless one of them pulls out.
Wardley Clark was ordered, wasn't it?
There you go. So I can't. I'm not going to pull him out. No, that's not what we do.
Okay, good to hear. Last one on the heavyweights. Again, this is relevant to tonight. Well, if you're watching, last night Moses Itauma out again on TNT Sports on this undercard in Telford. Your dad's gone on about him on and on, saying this guy is going to be the next one, Moses Itauma. So what is the sort of the short-term plan? I'm sure you share your dad's sentiments about Moses and what he can do in the heavyweight division.
Well, I hope we're talking after another great performance, and I hope his hand's held up after the injury. I believe he is naturally one of the best young boxers this country's had in a very long time. He's an incredibly talented young man, great skill set, great movement, he can punch. You've only got to listen to any of the trainers that have had him in for sparring, the other fighters, everyone that you talk to within the game that knows the game knows how talented this kid is. But he's like, and I don't mean this, I don't want to be disingenuous or kind of, patronising, but he is a kid, and for me it's regularity, it's baby steps, it's fight, keep that activity level up, keep improving in the gym, keep getting used to these fight nights. We've got a plan to have him out 8 times in the first year, and so after that it's then right, how quickly can he be stepped up? But the first year is just fight, just keep fighting, little baby steps, little improvement on the matchmaking each time, a little bit harder, a little bit different style, guide him through.
Exciting stuff. Okay, let's talk about one of the main charges at Queensberry, Anthony Yarde. He's back out on the Zhang Joyce 2 undercard, September 23rd at Wembley Arena. Now, we've seen Anthony nearly do it in Russia against Sergei Kovalev. He had a back and forth fight with one of the best pound for pound fighters in Artur Beterbiev recently. So he's had 2 really good world title challenges for someone, especially with limited amateur experience. There has been some criticism around his matchmaking. He's going into a fight with Ricky Summers, coming off a fight, as I said, one of the best pound for pound fighters. And there was criticism before the Kovalev fight about he's not really had too much of a test and he's jumping right to the top of the sport. So the criticism, I think, is the disparity in levels of matchmaking. You're going from right of the cream right to the top to, it's not even probably people would consider an English level title fight with Ricky Summers. So can you respond to that, George?
I mean, look, we sat down and met with Anthony and his team, and we agreed with their position and they agreed with our position that was a very tough night. It was physically tough to fight someone like that at the pace, and he needs to come back. These guys are boxers, right? They're not gladiators. You'll give them a break every so often, right? And this is not to be disrespectful to Ricky Summers, but of course Anthony goes in as a heavy favourite, as he should, and I expect him to come through it. But I think Ricky will come and he'll fight, and it's his opportunity to show what he can do. But I think that Anthony wins it. And the plan is then for Anthony to fight quickly again at the end of the year, and it will be a step up and it will be a step back up. The fights that we're interested in, we've been talking about at the moment. You've got the potential of the winner of Buatsi and Azeez. I think they're great fights. I love those fights. I think British fight fans would love to see them. And right now, there is a bit of a situation going on where you're just in an era at the moment with Anthony, where the 2 world champions are two great fighters. Now, you know, if I heard, you know, Matcham talking about a Bivol opportunity. We'd already made the decision. We didn't get an offer. We didn't get an offer for Dimitri Bivol, but we'd made the decision as a team already that Anthony was going to have kind of a tune-up fight coming back. If he comes through this, if he wants to have a step up in calibre before that opportunity, again, we'll support him. If he turns around and he feels he's ready to go with a Dimitri Bivol type fight, then we'll do it. But also, as I say, there's a lot of different options for him out there, especially domestic fighters. I mean, they're not domestic level fights by no means. You know, I don't think, you know, the winner of Azeez and Buatsi against Anthony is a domestic level fight. It's a quality fight.
If the Bivol opportunity doesn't arise for you guys, then I think, naturally the fans will want to see, as you said, the winner of Buatsi, Azeez. Both, well, I'm not sure about Dan Azeez's contractual situation, but let's say Buatsi wins that fight, because that is the fight we've wanted to see for ages. Yarde and Buatsi, it's like their names go together. He's with Boxer, obviously Yarde's with you guys. If the offer's right for him to fight on Sky, you'll allow that?
Absolutely. So, but again, I would like to hope that they would feel the same, and I'm pretty confident they would. But yeah, I have no problem with that.
Yeah, massive fight. We should see what happens in the light heavyweight division. A fight that was ordered was Denzel Bentley and Hamza Sheeraz, two guys with yourselves. So we know Hamza's out in Poland on the Usyk Dubois card. No news on Denzel Bentley yet. What's the plan with Denzel and Hamza?
So, I mean, naturally, unless either of them withdraws, which I wouldn't expect, that fight gets ordered. Unless, and there is, you know, some discussions going on that we're having about maybe a bigger opportunity for either one of the guys to maybe fight for a higher level title. And if we do that, then, you know, that would change the idea of putting them in straight in, and then maybe we build it towards a world title fight or something like that down the road. But certainly if that opportunity doesn't arise, I expect that fight to happen.
Okay, good stuff. Now, again, people watching this would have been last night. The winner of Davies Cunningham, it seems very natural to put them in with the winner of McCann and Baluta, which is obviously on August 18th at your call. Let's talk quickly about that as well, Dennis McCann and Baluta. We know what Baluta brings. It seems like the first real step up for Dennis, George.
Yeah. I mean, you know, look, again, you know, he's got Commonwealth title. He won that, and he looked great in that. And I think he's found his feet at the weight. He's a phenomenal talent. Does great numbers online as well, Dennis. And you know, he's a very popular guy. We're at your call, and it was really more to do with venue availability, because the demand for this event, we probably could have done a similar number to what we've done up in Telford. So you talk like, you know, you can get about 1,500 people in your call. We could have done 3,000 tickets for that night in August, which is, you know, it's funny actually. I was talking about this in the office the other day. Never used to do boxing in August, and like late July, August was like dead. Everyone went on holiday. You never did anything because you could never sell tickets. And we've got, okay, they're not huge arenas, but we're selling tickets. We've sold incredibly well, as people are watching this last night. Great crowd in Telford. We're going to have a great night at York Hall, and it's an actual fight, but they've got to come through it. Dennis has got to come through it.
The winner of this goes in against Dennis if he wins, you believe?
Yeah, I mean, if it's not next, it's certainly going to happen. There's momentum towards it. It's just about picking the moment in time to do it. You know, look, again, the duty of care that we have for these guys is we've got to maximise their earnings. We've got to try and get them into positions where they're taking these fights. There's a lot at stake, both financially but also in kind of accolades. And I think that this fight could be built in 2-3 fights time for world honours and be happening in a proper sized arena, you know, with 10,000 fans in. But if the guys both turn around and say, look, we want to get on with it earlier than that, then we sit down and we look at it. But it's about, you know, they're young guys as well. Dennis is a young guy. There's no rush.
George, just to round this conversation off, I appreciate your time. It's been a long one, but we are in the car anyway, so you had no choice really.
Definitely not.
We've seen, of course, the change from BT to TNT Sports, and TNT start really strong as of last night with Davies Cunningham, and obviously on box office Spence Crawford. You got Usyk Dubois August 26th on pay-per-view. You got Zhang and Joyce rematch September 23rd, and then Fury and Ngannou October 28th from Saudi Arabia. So it's a great start for TNT Sports. How does this affect things for Queensberry, if it does at all, the switch from BT to TNT?
And the day-to-day, nothing in terms, you know, the boxing team at TNT, like from, you know, behind the scene guys all stayed the same. which is great. We've got a great relationship with the people that we work with and the team that run it. This has been a long time coming. We've known about this for a long time, and it's been a little bit difficult just whilst we've been waiting for this, kind of working out when we can announce things and schedule things to work and coincide with the brand launch. But now it's happened. We're all really excited. I think it's going to be great, and it's going to be great for sport overall in this country to have, you know, another huge business like WBD involved in boxing in this country. I think for us, we just want to go in, demonstrate what we're capable of doing, deliver the best events that we possibly can for them, deliver fights that people want to watch, and if they watch it, they get good ratings, they get good events, they get good exciting atmospheres, great fights in there. Then long may it continue. But no, it's all really positive.
And from the conversations you've had with people at TNT, I'm sure a lot of the same people from BT, they're going to back boxing like BT did, if not even more.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, look, we like to think, particularly this year, we've had a great year. A great year in terms of our linear schedule, some great fight nights, some results that haven't gone our way, but in terms of events and fights, they've been great. I mentioned, you know, in terms of this year, started with Anthony Yarde and Buatsi, a great fight. Yeah, not your hardcore boxing fans' favourite event of the year, but a great event in Jake and Tommy on TNT Sport box office, which did great numbers. I mean, huge numbers on pay-per-view. Everyone was pretty blown away with the performance of the event. Joyce, Zhang was a great heavyweight fight. Got Telford last night, a load of other events we've done, and we're seeing so many new and young talented fighters that we're developing starting to step up and get opportunities. Ellis Zorro, one that had a great performance, he's going to be out soon recently. Liam Davies and Jason Cunningham, I hope everyone enjoyed it last night. The winner likely going to be in with McCann Baluta soon. That's another one to look forward to, and we just got to keep building. That's all we've got to keep focusing on. If we do that, I think they keep backing the sport, and I hope everyone just continues to like our events.
George Warren, thank you very much for talking to IFL TV on the road. Probably the next conversation I'll get with you on camera is in Poland, and the one after
Probably
be in
won't.
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I'll hide.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Join us for the very first IFL Live at London's Indigo at the O2, Sunday, August the 13th, with me, Kugan Cassius, and some very special guests, Eddie Hearn, Darren Barker, Johnny Fisher, and more. Tickets now on sale. So in the words of Eddie Hearn,
You get up, you dress up, and you fucking shut up.